Hello and welcome to a brand new show here on Star Events Online with me, Michael Howarth. Crash Course Cooking. The clue's in the title. We shall be, every week we'll be coming on and cooking up a feast of delight before your very eyes, along with talking to very special guests from the motor racing world. This week's special guest is a close personal friend of mine and former team boss, Mr. Dave Tyson. Hello, Dave. Hello.
Hi, Michael. You all right?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. I'm all right. Crapping myself with this first show, but here we go. We'll do as best to get on with it. So yes, the premise of the show, I shall explain to our guests that are watching, is pretty much that. I'll be cooking something before your very eyes while talking to someone. This week it will be about British Superbikes, what happened this year, this season, and Dave's plans for next year, and see if I can blag a ride out of him. So without further ado, if everyone's okay, I shall start by prepping the potatoes. We're going to be making a rack of lamb with pimento potatoes and a mint and pea puree. It seems very exotic, but if I can do it, I'm sure you guys can. So we'll bring in the potatoes, which we're simply going to cube up, which is not the hardest thing in the world. I'm sure you've all done this before. A Morris Piper potato, one of them's chucked that one in the bin because there's a bit of crap in it. Yeah, we've all cubed potatoes up before, so I'm sure you can all do that. I'd like to...
Michael, just 1 point, mate. You chop the potatoes on the green one, not the red one. The red one's for the meat.
Just making sure you were paying attention, David. As we know, you're a culinary
I'll continue with the etiquette all the way through for you.
Thank you. Well, that's why you were my team boss, weren't it? Because I'm too simple to actually be able to do anything on my own.
Yeah, we had to tell you what to do all the way through.
So I'll just give a little bit of background while I'm doing this, because we're just cubing potatoes that are then going to be plunged into boiling water for 5 minutes. Star Events Online was something that was brought up at the beginning of lockdown so that people could have an interactive show that they could watch from the home while they were all stressed out and not being able to get out and about. Pretty much like my mother, who was she was hospitalised in January, was in a coma for 9 weeks. Could have been COVID, but they were never sure. But they got her home, and since then she's been a little bit of a hermit, bless her. But she's getting better. So we don't need to worry about her. And I'm still no nearer my inheritance than I ever was. So while we're doing this, Dave, could you, while I'm just chopping these and betting these to bottom, could you just let the people and the viewers know how me and you come to be, how I come to race for your team and what happened the first time we went testing?
Well, yeah, it was about 11. Well, it was actually 11 years ago. This unfortunate time of the year, because normally we'd normally be at the NEC show, wouldn't we? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
11 years ago, I put together, after working in the paddock for a little bit, what was our first Superbike team, which was Magic Bullet Racing. And you were our Superbike Evo rider. That was the plan. We had a stock 600 and stock 1000 as well. And you jollily came along with your northern dialect and rode the Superbike somewhere around the circuits in the UK. But yeah, the first test was quite funny. We'd done a track down.
I'm just going to plunge these into boiling. Sorry, Dave, I'll just jump in, mate. I'm just going to plunge these potatoes into boiling water, salted boiling water, for about 5 minutes. Carry on, Dave. Yeah.
So we've been to Brands for a track day, just a normal punter day, just to do a bit of a shakedown on the bikes. And we were down in the bottom paddock and we were sorting out some pit boarding and bits and bobs for the following day, which is the BSB test. And Michael decided that doing a rolling burnout, showing off to the drifters that were down in the bottom paddock at Brands.
That's right. Idea. There were some car guys. Yeah, there were some car guys there, weren't there? Yeah. Like, watch this then, dickhead.
Yeah, well, the problem was they did watch it, and what they actually saw was you go skywards with no crash helmet on, land on your head, and knock yourself out. How did the test go the following day?
Well, like the test were because I had concussion, so I was sidelined for 7 days by the med centre. It was not my finest hour, and nor was it our greatest moment. But I do remember coming round on the floor and the bike being picked up off me, and you took me straight to the motorhome, if I remember rightly. And I was talking absolute gibberish, more than I would ever normally talk anyway.
I was about to say that it was actually a struggle to normally, disassociate the two, but
yes, I remember me saying something about someone was going to come down in a helicopter to see us, but then obviously I was sidelined for 7 days. I couldn't leave after we'd had the test, so I actually had to sit at Brands Hatch for 7 days, which wasn't so bad because we did a club race meeting, didn't we, to get some more time on the bike. So I just stayed down in Kent for a week. And I'd also, I think you'll remember this. By the way, I'm just going to put this tray into a preheated oven ready for the potatoes. I'm just waiting for them to get boiling. So we'll just get this into the oven. Yeah, I remember being down there for a few days and my backside being really rather sore. And I had to go, I went to Scott Smart's mother and father's house, Maggie and Paul Smart, and I had Barry Sheen's sister picking gravel out of my arse, which is one of my claims to fame, to be honest. So, yeah, we did the first, what did we do there? We did that club race, which went all right. Yeah. And I think we definitely got a couple of podiums and wins, because I remember at one point in the last race, I was following Nicky Coates' friend. And I was quite happy just sat behind him, and you were on the pit wall like, get on with it, boy. And I'm like, no, I'm just happy here. I'm just following Nicky and seeing what he's like. And then we got to the first round, which was really rather interesting, again, within itself. Can you remember what we did? I can't. Well, in fact, we were flying in practice in the wet because I was following Neil Hodgson, and actually I was faster than him, but he's a Burnley relic anyway, so I was proud of that. I can't remember much about the first race, but I do remember the second race, which you'll probably remember because of what it cost you. Because we crashed twice in that race, didn't we, if you remember rightly? So if you
crashed, because this was obviously before the rules of that once you crash, you're out. So you crashed and came in, and we put a foot peg on the bike because that's all you'd actually damaged. And then you went back out to just get some track time because obviously knocking yourself out the week before. And then you decided to go and chuck it into the gravel second time around a little bit harder.
That's it. I remember coming back into the pits after the first crash and going, Dave, if we get this bike fixed, we can go back out. We can go back out and we'll score points in the cup championship. And you were like, oh shit, yeah. And everyone's running around and they replace a footrest. I think you bled the front brake up a bit as well.
It was front brake, lever, and footrest. Yeah, dead easy, quick fix.
And I got back out probably 10 laps down, but it'd have been a 30 lap race because it was Brands Indy. So I got back out in absolute last place, but we were still 4th or 5th in the Superbike Cup because of
in Evo. I think we were like 5th or 6th.
Yeah. And then I remember on the very last lap, Michael Rutter come flying past me into Paddock Hill, and something come over me, and I've never kept up with Michael Rutter in my life, and I just thought, I'm not having this, and just giving an handful. And next thing it was sky floor. Oh shit, the dash had just flown off the bike.
What you didn't remember though, mate, is that they had traction control back then, and you had like the first Motec stuff with no traction.
Yeah,
that was the problem. It was that brain thinking thing that sometimes riders struggle with.
Yeah, but I think that's why we're also stupid, isn't it? Because we've no brains and we wouldn't be doing it otherwise, would we? Right, so then they've only just started boiling now, my potatoes. I don't just really know what's wrong. So if you can give me 5 minutes from there, we've got a couple of people in the studio, the cafe that we're in today. So they're just going to let me know on times because I'm going to get the rack of lamb on shortly. So like I said, if anybody wants to interact and they've got a question, please do put your hand up and Scott will unmute you and you'll be able to jump in and ask us whatever you like. I think that's enough of the introduction of how me and Dave got to know each other. So Dave, how's this year been? Because I'm sure it's been a living hell, especially kind of March, April time.
Yeah, it's a bit. Honestly, it's been a difficult one. I mean, look, we all sort of had this like massive excitement. We'd gone over to sign Gino at the beginning of the year. We were getting a Ducati, and everybody was all excited about it. We were back with the MVs and everything, and then obviously, we all know what happened in February, and that was about that really. But it's been difficult in loads of reasons. One, sponsors, have been really, really hit hard, and you're working hard with them to give them a return of investment. All the time that we weren't racing, all the way through March, April, May, June, July, you're flat out trying to do promotional stuff for them and stuff on the internet and just anything
Did it cost you many sponsors, or did you manage to keep them all? Did they all stay loyal?
We lost three. We lost three, yeah. Yeah, we lost three completely, and then a couple pretty much, the budgets got slashed. So you lost a chunk of money there. So, from the offset, you were onto a bit of a back foot. We were quite lucky. We picked up a couple during the year, you know, which will roll into this coming season. But yeah, it wasn't financially. It was a very difficult year. I mean, I think I was talking to Steve Rogers yesterday, who's the guy that runs, you know, one of the teams, and he was saying that, you know, they got probably half the sponsorship in, but it cost them 3/4 of the amount. And I think that's pretty much the deal across the paddock. I think that's pretty much where everybody was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing Stuart Higgs and the likes did try everything they could to possibly help and trying to lay the face to all the sponsors and stuff.
Look, I mean, let's be honest, MSVR had the worst year of their lives because they had no spectators.
Yeah.
You know, it was all right, all these people on the internet going, oh, we want to go, we can't believe we can't go, can't believe we can't go. You know, MSV had their arms tied behind their back while they were being beaten across the back of the head with a bat. You know, no matter what they did, they couldn't take it forward.
No.
So everything that Stuart did.
Yeah, sorry. I saw throughout the year when we kind of come out of lockdown and such, and there were events being put on, big outdoor events, a couple of car shows and things like that, where there'd be 5,000 or 10,000 people there, and I couldn't believe that they weren't, you know, we were allowed to go hunting on the moors. Well, if any of these governing bodies of government would have ever been to a racetrack, they would see the amount of space we had. You could get 10,000 people into Donington. It looked like there were nobody there, wouldn't there?
Yeah. Well, it looks like for touring car.
Yeah, touring cars. Were touring cars allowed anyone in? No. But then you got the Scarborough Cup, and because it was it's not classed as an elite sport,
not elite.
They were allowed thousands of people in. So how does that work? It was like I said, but that's the crazy old years. But tell us about when the season finally got started at Silverstone. Was it a weird feeling racing in front of no fans, or was it you were just relieved to get there and finally get on with the job?
A bit of an odd job, really, because obviously Donington we started at round one. We didn't have a bad round one, to be fair. Gino had a 7th, and it was a good round. And we had a few little issues with the bike and what have you, but nothing that, you know, we got a massively limited amount of track time because obviously we went over to that, so to the Kawasaki from the Ducati because it never happened. Yeah, it was weird with no fans, you know, obviously no pit lane walkabout and all that sort of thing. And the atmosphere was it felt like a test. You know, when you go to a pre-season test, when there's a few people walking around, it felt like that all year. It felt like we were just doing pre-season testing all year, but you got a trophy for it.
So finally, you did get a trophy for being the fastest tester.
No, we didn't get a trophy last year, unfortunately. I had to buy myself one.
Did you?
Yeah. The best we got last year was 4th. So.
Yeah. I'm sure Wilf made you feel special enough, like you were already a winner, though. I know you have a great relationship.
He always makes me feel like a winner every day I know him.
Yeah, and Steve won't watch this, so I could probably say what I liked about him. Right, I am going to just stop you there, Dave, because I'm going to run into getting the potatoes done, and then we'll come back to you, mate. So now I'm going to have to just talk you through a bit of cooking. So we're going to get the potatoes and just drain them off, which is simple enough. You'll lose me in shot now. Into the colander. Back on there. What a dodgy one. As long as you can see everything. Then I'll take the tray of the oven and we shall get that prepped. Have we any tea towels anywhere? Sorry to ask my lot. They've given me these things. What do you think if it's all about? Rubbish. And I'm going to burn myself with these. I know I am.
No, you're not. They're brilliant.
I've not actually bad that. I'll give it that. Right. So we've got some butter and oil in this tray that's been warmed up. And into that, we're going to put a couple of sprigs of rosemary straight in. Get some garlic, which we have here. Crush that. Leave it in the skins. It really doesn't matter. In fact, it protects it a little bit, if anything else. A couple of sprigs of thyme straight into there. Then we're going to get the potatoes with the drain right so I don't get spat at. Dump them straight into there. Leave this out of the shop so you think we're all right. Get a bit of the old salt and pepper. The season is very important, as we all know. And I've got the oven on here at around 180, between about 190 degrees. And I don't know if that's centigrade off now, and I'm far too simple for that, as you've probably all guessed by now and seen. Speaking to me and Dave. Can you let us into anyone who's going to ride for you next year yet, Dave? Have you got any riders signed up?
I've got the whole team signed up, and it will be released next Wednesday.
All right, that's lovely. Because also this last season, you were with Bike Devil as your title sponsor, and I believe that is about to change. And I know you won't be able to tell us.
No, it will change for this year. We've got a new title sponsor on board, which will be, again, that'll get released in the next few weeks. But the big news is the two riders next Wednesday. So being done with BSB and MCN next Wednesday, so that'll be all right.
Magic. Right, those potatoes are going to stay in that oven for around 25 minutes. So I'm going to now get onto our rack of lamb that I purchased this morning from Stansfield Butchers in Somerton. Local firm. Everyone's encouraging everybody to shop local at the minute. So we've got a rack of lamb that's all French trimmed up, that's ready to go. So we'll just put that on plate here. I need to get some oil and butter going in a pan there. I hope you're all keeping up and this is all right for you all. Yeah. So I'm guessing there wasn't a Wendy season party either, was there, this year, Dave, to be honest?
No, nothing.
Or did you all have to, were you not even allowed to stay in your own little bubbles and have a few beers and piss off home?
No,
or?
you had to be finished at the circuit and off the circuit. It was just an odd year, mate. Really, really was. And things like you and I go up in the commentary box a lot.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We weren't even allowed to do that. Even Larry in pit lane, it was quite limited what he could even do. So it was a tough year for everybody. I mean, every team I think found it difficult, but then every team worked through it. And looking at the grid for next year as it's coming together, I think there's a lot of riders moving. We've got two completely new riders. So yeah, it'll be an interesting job.
Yeah, I think there's been an awful lot of speculation about the riders. Nice to see someone, like even Danny Buchan, that's a Kawasaki stalwart, as you well know. He won the Super Stock title for you in 2014. What year did? 2014. Yeah, it's nice to see him taking on a new challenge. I thought that the McCann's Yamaha squad would stay as it is, and that's proved to be. We're just putting some seasoning on this rack of lamb, and when the pan's up to temperature, that'll be going in the frying pan for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'll show you what else we're going to do with that. Who's good? I'm guessing Wilf has got his rider signed up for next year, but he's not released anything yet.
It released this morning.
Oh, was it? Who's he got?
Bridewell.
Oh, has he stayed with Tommy? Stayed with Tommy. Yeah, good. That's another one of them that seems to work, doesn't it? Them two work together really well.
I mean, they had a tough year again last year. Lots of little changes and bits, and obviously the new tyre and everything. So they had a fair bit of work to try and emulate what they did the year before, and I'm sure they'll go and do that again next year. We'll be chasing.
Are they ready? I'll just put this this lamb in, and we'll just show people what we're doing there. I'll be changing. I'm just going to put this on the fat side down. We'll let that render for 3 or 4 minutes and get both ends going like that. If you can see, we'll fry ends like that and like that. We'll get that in because that's lovely. And need to hear a bit of a sizzle. Yeah, are there any plans to introduce any new tyres for next year, Dave?
Not that I know of. I think the tyres that we ran this year, I think, are going to be what we get next year. There is a rumour of a rear tyre possibly, but I'll wait till the first test, which will be in April for that job. I don't think the tyres are a bad thing. I think Pirelli do a really good job bringing the tyres to us. And they have to work in a load of different surfaces. Look at Silverstone, compare it to Brands Hatch or even Thruxton. It's a huge difference. Even the surfaces they have to deal with. Yeah. So they've done a good job.
So, but we'll do this as the kind of last technical bit because I'm sure it bores everyone's brains because they haven't got an idea really. But what was the biggest difference in the tyre this year from last year that people couldn't get along with? Because the BMW seemed to struggle with it. I know Tommy wasn't massively happy with it. What was it? Was it a compound, a construction?
Well, to be honest, we never really suffered with it because we didn't really have any data otherwise to take us anywhere else for the bike. So PJ, who was the crew chief, knew it from World Superbike. So there was a little change. You had to run a slightly different tyre pressure to it. Obviously, the carcass, the actual rubber itself was the same, but it was just the carcass itself was stiffer.
Right.
So it gave you a different feel. So yeah, I mean, it for us. It didn't make any difference. You know, we didn't have the best year on superbikes last year. That'll change for next year, but you know, for us, it wasn't a problem. You know, we didn't really see it, but I think people just couldn't get the feel that they got from the previous tyre.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we've all been there. I remember when we changed over from Dunlop to Pirelli, when Pirelli became the sole tyre provider in BSB 2008. Oh man! I mean, I crashed at the first test. I'd been out for a season anyway because I'd snapped my leg in 2007. I only made the first round, but that wasn't my fault for once. I remember jumping on the same bike the year after in Almeria on the Pirellis. I think that bike lasted a day before I trashed it because it just couldn't get any feeling. And people don't understand out there that these tyres make a massive difference to the way that you can ride a motorcycle or not. The front end on a Dunlop bike was amazing, much better than the Pirellis. But I'm guessing the Pirellis have caught up now. They've taken most of the lap records away from Dunlop on British circuits. So go on, talk us through a bit more of your season this year, because I know that you ended up losing Gino and you ended up with Tommy Ward, a young up-and-coming rider. In a few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, Gino moved. Gino took the decision after round one. I'm not going to go into it. It's his choice. It was his decision to move ship, and I think it was generally directed by his sponsors, not him. But we'll see. But yeah, we put young Tom on it. Obviously, he was at MSS originally. They had to pull out the stock championship due to the Massenburg Monday non-sponsorship that didn't happen. And Tom did a good job. You know, unfortunately, we had a crash at Donington, which just meant that that job itself couldn't go any further. So, you know, we needed to look for a different solution. And unfortunately, the solution didn't work either. But for me, you know, it's one of them things. Last year, or this year, whatever you want to call it. I want to sort of, other than the stuff that Rob did, you know, Rob did a fantastic job on the Supersport bike. You know, I'd pretty much rather forget 2020, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that's everyone in and out of racing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those ones you want to get a chubby Crayola and just scribble it out and get rid of it. You know, but yeah, no, next year will be mega. Obviously, purely Kawasaki's next year. No MV. The old girl in the corner there. That was her last outing. There she is, bless her.
Finally retiring her, yeah?
She's off to a collector in Belgium.
Belgium?
Yeah.
Of all the places in the world, why Belgium?
Well, no, they've been to Spa.
But, yeah, actually, yeah, I'll shut my mouth. Yeah, one of the greatest racing circuits in the world, and Belgium.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's somewhere I'd like to go. I'd love to go and have a wobble run there.
Mate, Spa in a car is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, absolutely unreal. Nothing like it.
We'll have to work out so we can go and do a track there and there and something, Dave.
Oh, that's easy. I just take the track card. But yeah, it's, you know, the MVs last year, so we're on the 636 Kawasaki. So the 2020 636 ZX 6R, so that'll be all right.
Yeah, pushed it. Right, I'm going to have to just cut back to the cooking again a bit here, people. We're just going to put some butter into this pan, let that butter get going. Have I got a big spoon somewhere I can use? Just while that is doing that, we're just going to let that butter cook down. I've got a bulb of garlic here that I'm literally just going to cut in half, if you can see here, and that's going to dump in there, just like that. Again, into this, so there's some rosemary and some thyme put in. I think this is called something like a bit of a trivet, but basically what you do, you just put stuff in the middle of your pan that's going to go into the oven and just sit the rack of lemon there to take in the flavours. We'll just put a drop of oil in there, not a lot. And we need to back over to the pan. As you can see, that's cooking down really rather nicely, but we need to baste it all now. Just got that butter going slightly brown, so it gives a really nice little nutty flavour, if that's correct. I do believe that there is actually the chef watching this today, called Ian, that used to live with one of the guys that's going to be helping us out a bit this year, Rob. So he's probably looking on in absolute despair, going, "What the hell are you doing?" But my show, my room.
It's kitchen cooking.
It's kitchen cooking. It's cooking and crashing. So if we're not crashing on the bike, we're crashing in the kitchen. We'll just pour a little bit of that butter over there for flavour. And then I'm not sure if I seasoned this lamb before, so I might have made a big schoolboy error there.
You did put salt on it.
I did, didn't I, before we come onto the show? But I will give it a good dose of salt and pepper in now. This is going to go into the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. We'll bring it out. We'll put the all these pepper grinders are out. That's a crap. Yeah. Then we'll once this has gone into the oven, I'm going to have to make a little bit of noise. We'll make the crust that's going to go on it. It's about 8 minutes. We'll take it out. Put the crust on, and then it'll go back into the oven for roughly 4 minutes. We'll have a look at it. Oh, there's little potatoes. A long look. I won't bother showing you yet.
Potatoes.
Give them a look. So anybody that is out there, have you got anything to ask us both yet, or are me and Dave keeping you all quite happily entertained?
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. I've got a question for Dave, if that's okay.
Oh, go on.
Go on, far away.
Hi, Dave. I just wondered, with you mentioned that it was very different in the paddock and things like that for you as a team. I just wondered how the riders found it with no people in the watching and things like that. Did they give you feedback that it felt like a testing session, or were they still just focused on getting around that as fast as they could?
I think when it came to the job, they do the job professionally. But it's that you get an atmosphere when crowds are there. You have to remember, we get like bigger than average Premiership crowd at BSB. We get like 47,000 on average. So, our reach and our fan base is like going to Anfield every weekend. So you do miss them. You miss the noise, you miss certainly when the guys win and stuff like that, the adulation you get. And, there's no one to wave at, interact with, or anything like that. So I think, the riders definitely noticed the difference. I don't think it changed the racing. The racing this year was fantastic. But I think the actual, we're used to seeing the crowds there. We're used to having people in there. They're used to being pestered for photographs and autographs and all that sort of stuff. So I think that side of it was massively different. I don't think it changed the racing. I think the racing this year was probably some of the best racing we've had for a long time. The new format of 3 races a weekend was really good and did make a championship go to the wire. But yeah, I think it didn't feel like a test session to them because they have to go out and do their job and they still want to be top of the tree. So, and once you put your visor down, Michael will tell you, races are races. They want to win no matter what. So, I don't think it changed that for him, but I think the atmosphere of racing and being in the paddock and people around and all that sort of stuff was a huge change.
Yeah, some riders do genuinely thrive on that, don't they? So I can imagine it being a bit difficult for someone. I'm going to have to just stop you both. Well, you can finish answering that question again in a minute, Dave. But I'm going to blend this up now, which is a rosemary parsley thyme, a little bit of mint, some breadcrumbs, and some salt and pepper. But this is going to get noisy for a second, folks. But I'm sorry, I can't help it. Try doing it at a shot. All right. Oh.
Health and safety at its best, look. Pick the electric appliance up and shake it around.
I've just lost half of it. There we go. We're getting there now. Right, carry on, you two. Yeah, so carry on, Dave, with your little story. Here, we have it blended. There were going to be a few mistakes today, weren't there? Something to pull that out. But you guys carry on.
Like you said, Michael, there's a lot of riders that do thrive on it. I suppose the big circuits that you get a lot of crowd interactivity, like Cadwell and places like that. We didn't go to this year. So, I think if you'd have gone to Cadwell with no fans, that'd have been really weird.
Yeah,
but obviously with COVID, we had to be in circuits that had big enough paddocks to, to cater for the amount of people that are there working, and the riders, and the hospitality, and the living area and all that sort of stuff. So I think the whole feel of the paddock was very different. The layout of the paddocks were very different. But yeah, I think if we'd gone to Cadwell or somewhere like that, where the crowd are on top of you, especially when you win, when you win a race at Cadwell, we've been on the podium there a few times, and you have that they're right on the side of the start finish line. So that'd have been quite an odd, I think, scenario.
Yeah. I did miss not seeing Cadwell on the calendar this year, but like you say, it's that really is one of those tracks where you're interacting with the fans whether you like it or not. The motorhomes are all in the same place as where they're walking in and out. But like we said, then you could have had a lockdown paddock and got 4,000 or 5,000 people into Cadwell if only the government would allowed it. I don't think they kind of.
Yeah, I think you have to take it that the elite sports deal was done based on the amount of people we get in the ground. And nobody looked at how big it was. They didn't look at if it was a 25-acre site like Donington Park, or if it was a 54,000-seater stadium like Anfield. What they did is they just went, you get 47,000 people there. So they classed us as an elite sport. The only good thing to that is, apparently, if we're an elite sport, we get to apply for grants from the old National Lottery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you won't get anything, but you can apply for them.
Yes, they have said that they're going to allow up to 4,000 people to outdoor venues now. So if that stays in for next year, at least there's a chance that we're going to get some people in, because they're going to allow it to football games. So
look, let's look at it objectively. Stuart moved to start the championship back to May. We've only got one race in May, and then it's June and onwards. So he's already thought about it. He's already looked at it. And obviously we have no Spanish testing next year. All our testing is done in April in the UK. So I would imagine April, we would hope to be more than 4,000, and I think we'll get a lot of people coming to watch the testing next year. And then I think
are all the teams banned from going tested in Spain full stop, or are you
Superbike? Yeah,
Superbike. No private testing. Right. Well, that's fair.
No testing until the first test.
I can see. I mean, if everything does go back to some sort of normality next year, and we are allowed the crowds that we used to at VSB, they're going to be astronomical, aren't they? I don't think people being skinned, I don't even think that's going to put them off, to be quite honest. I think they want to get out there and see the riders racing as close as they can.
Look, I think if we'd have had one opportunity at one circuit to have a few people in, you'd have probably filled it. If we'd have had the opportunity at the last round to have a few people in, what was it? World Superbike, 110,000 at Brands. You'd have probably ended
back in the foggy era,
yeah, you'd have probably ended up with that many people wanting to turn up for the last round.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still gutted to this day that we don't get the bank holiday Monday at Cadwell Park. I mean, it's been nice being down at MotoGP and actually getting the Monday off. But I've done the work and I've been doing the commentary there for the last couple of years. But there's something a bit special about a bank holiday Monday and racing at Cadwell Park. Maybe because I took my first ever Superbike win there.
You took a Superbike win?
Come in, Dave? I won a Superbike Cup race, my friend. Yes, I did.
When was that?
You didn't know that, did you? 2006. First race.
It was probably on that CV you sent me years ago.
yeah, look how good I am. Second race in 2006. The first race, I would have got my first podium, but it was wet at the start of the race. It dried out, and we were all on wets, and everyone was struggling. I got fairly well up the grid during the race, and all like into a proper normal point scoring position. And I went to go underneath Howie Main wearing on the last lap at the top of the.
Don't tell me you fell off.
Oh, I went to the moon, mate. I went to moon, the biggest ice. And because, as you know, as a gooseneck is, and then you go down the hill, and it's steep, isn't it? There, going down into Mansfield at Cadwell Park. So I got punching off the bike, shot into the air, but then the ground's falling away from me. And even I'm looking down thinking, shite, this is going to work. This is really going to work. And I winded myself. I ripped my elbow off. I had some stitches in that. And I crawled off to the side. And I just looked up at all spectators. And, you know, I'm probably going to swear more than I should in this bit, but I just went, okay, now, you do not want to do that, people. And then just fell over the tire wall and lay there for about 10 minutes trying to get my breath back. Went, the bike slid all the way to the bottom, actually, and then back up the bank into the other side. So we were still going a fair rate of knots. Got back to the garage. Malcolm Ashley was not best pleased, and he was rushing like mad to get the bike ready. Started cleaning all the chain off, but he did that stupid thing where he started the bike, put it in first. His cloth caught in the chain, ripped his finger off. So he went to it. We were both of us down at Med Centre and then getting stitched up, and then he had to come and rebuild the bike. And then there in the second race, I was gone. I was into the distance, and I won the Superbike Cup race by a long way in the drive. Yeah.
Ah, the good old days, bless you.
The good old days, mate. Right, I'm going to bring this rack of lamb out now. This is where it gets to the thing. Can you see that all right in the picture? Because have a look at that. That's looking delightful. And all that garlic underneath, it's gonna taste lovely. Right, this is going to go back into the oven. I did get a paintbrush out somewhere, which I have lost now. Where's that gone? Oh, it's there. Here we go. Right, so what we're going to do with this rack of lamb now, people, I'm just going to put it onto this plate here for a second. Put all that back there. Has Ian not even wrote any comment, or is he just not on it anymore, Rob? Because I'd love to know how he thinks I'm getting along, to be quite honest. We're going to get some Dijon mustard here, and you want to brush this on to the lamb as soon as you possibly can, so that it soaks right in. And this is what's going to help hold the herbs onto the lamb, and then it's going to go back into the oven for roughly 4 minutes. And within that 4 minutes, I've then got to make us a sauce. Let Dave carry on entertaining you. I'm glad you actually came on today, Dave, because it's worked. It's worked very well. Me and you chatting absolute bubbles as usual. I remember you nicking my M3 once at the first round. You disappeared with that, or did you just go and get a Chinese with it? Can't just remember.
No, we didn't get Chinese. It was that blue one, wasn't it? That E92.
No, it was a 54 plate. 54 plate. Well, love that car.
Yeah, so it was an E92.
E46.
Was it a 46?
It was an E46 with that bad boy convertible, proper.
I remember it being a convertible.
Yeah. It's only because it came up cheap. Yeah. No, trust me, it was cheap. I'm from up north, and every pound's a prisoner, as you well know, my friend.
Yeah, see, right, I came from up there, but I've moved down here now, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, well,
and,
yeah.
And we have to have like nice shiny workshops and stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call you an honour in order anymore. Right, so now we've put Dijon mustard all over this rack of lamb. I'm trying to look for the right camera, whichever one. That's going straight into this herb thing we've put on. You want to get that packed on and nice. And like I say, this is then going to go back into the oven for roughly 4 minutes to crisp up, and then it's lamb. So the best thing we can do once we've got lamb out of the oven is we've got to leave it to rest for a little while. Nobody likes tough lamb. And I'm hoping that when we cut into it, it'll still be pink. Because if not, the first cooking show that I've ever done has failed. But we'll see. Right, so back onto the same tray that we was using before. I hope you've got a good enough shot of that. I'll just bring that over here.
Nice little message from Ian there, though, Michael.
What's he saying?
He said you're doing all right with the cooking.
Did it? I can't see these messages for some reason. So
well, that's why I thought I'd share it with you. You know, I might as well praise you for something.
Hey, listen, I'm in talks of big talks for a comeback next year, but we'll see. We'll see. Right, so yeah, this is going to go back in the oven for around 4 minutes. Within that time, our potatoes should be ready. So now I've got to get on a pan of stock rapid. Because the stock will be gone quite cool. I don't know if that thing works. So we'll get that on there. I'm going to get, oh no, I'm not actually, sorry. I need to chop some things up. Green for veg, is that right, David? Is it green for veg?
Green for veg, my friend.
Green for veg, yippah. Right, here we go, people.
Make sure you got a green knife to go with it.
I've got a little knife. Don't need that one anymore because we're going to cut up some shallots. Why did I cook for? I've missed lots of something in this, people, and I'm just trying to have a look on my little list. Oh, it's for the pea puree.
Small onions.
That we've not done. I need to get some boiling water in a pan quick. Can you put some boiling water in that for me? Thank you. Nearly forgot the peas, folks. The pea puree. I knew something was going to go wrong at some point. So we need to get them on as quick as we can. They've come in right at the end. I need a little bit of oil in this sauce, and this can actually cook itself away while everything's resting. We've still got time to do everything, so don't worry about that. Thank you. My lovely little assistant has just prepared me some boiling water to get the peas in, so I'll just pour some of those in. I've got what we need, 375 grams. I'm going to use probably just over half a packet. Just boil them for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get to the sauce with them after. Yeah, so Dave, I'm just gonna chop these shallots and fry these off slightly in a little bit of oil and butter and a little bit of garlic. And then in the sauce, then there'll just be some red wine stock and jelly, but we'll get to them. Dave, you're running a new bike for next year, but still a Kawasaki because they brought a new model out, haven't they?
Yeah, they released it Monday, the new 2021. So there's a few little changes to the current bike. So we get a few extra revs, got a new frame, new aero package. There's a few little changes on the engine and stuff. So should make it a little bit better for the rider, and should hopefully make us a little bit more competitive, closer towards the Honda and the Ducati, which were sort of the standout bikes last year again. But yeah, you know, I mean, like anything, mate, biggest job.
I'll just touch back on the Honda there, David, because that came out in the blocks firing this year. Was that a shock to most of the paddock? With me not being there, but, no, did everyone kind of know secretly? I mean, I'd seen bits and bobs within the press about how good it was going to be. But then the proof of the pudding's always in the eating, and we know what HRC or any manufacturer for that side, they build the bike up, don't they, saying it's going to be amazing. And then it wasn't.
You have to remember, mate, that in 2019, Andy Irwin pedalled that old bike, which was an old bike, right, at the fastest circuit in the country and won, right? So the Honda was never a bad bike. It was just a little bit older than the rest of them. The new bike was a big step forward, and the thing they lacked was power. You know, they didn't have the power that all the modern stuff's got. The chassis was always the best chassis. You know, there is no better chassis than the Honda chassis. So what do you do? Well, what you do is you go and you know the chassis is going to suit super sport riders, and you're going to have a lot more power. So what do? You employ two of the most hungry, fast super sport riders that have been on our circuits in the past few years, and just say, right, leash is off, go for it.
yeah. And what two better riders to do that on? I hope we've got an alarm going off here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, everyone was saying that Glenn was past it and Glenn was done after last season, and I never thought that for 1 second. Glenn's a very talented rider. He couldn't gel with the Kawasaki for whatever reason. Then when he went to Tyco, I believe it was they offered him a contract and he had to sign there and then, and he didn't want to, but he'd already been speaking to Honda. So once they found that out, they said kind of, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the same story. I think it was they're at Assen. You know, the rumor is that Assen asked him to sign it. He said no. Said that he was talking to somebody else. So they called the day on that part of the season. But you know, Glenn's an unbelievable talent. You know, you don't finish second in the championship. You know, a couple of years before for no reason, and he showed last year what a talent he was. And his brother's no different. Obviously, I brought Andy. You know, was it 2012? I think it's 13. We brought Andy into the BSB paddock. And I remember Glenn telling me then, he said, look, you know, I'm quick. He said, but my brother is a lot better than I am.
Yeah, doing the old Marquez trick. What I'm going to do with that, well, that's just for a minute. I'm going to try and get the peas up to boil a little bit quicker. Yep.
He wasn't wrong, was he? You know, Andy is very, very, very fast.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't think I've ever rode. Oh, he rode for you, didn't it? Andrew Ward rode
Yeah.
for you.
It was us that gave him his first shot.
Right, yeah. Yeah, with his,
And he loved a crash like you back then.
Nobody loves a crash like me. But yeah, again, that's what everybody thought. And I thought there were a couple of things that it was, from my side, looking at just a spectator on the TV, I'm not sure just what it was like live, but the simple, when he come into contact with Josh Brooks at Donington Park, I wasn't so sure that was I don't think the crime, the punishment fit the crime, to be honest, because I didn't think it wasn't a horrible move. It wasn't like he intentionally went to it, Josh, to be honest. I just think he was out of his sight line and he couldn't see Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to get caught up in it because it's
Come on, let's be controversial, David.
No, it's one of them, isn't it? But I look at anything, and you have to remember, I come from a car background as well. So if there's half a gap, it's yours.
Exactly.
And rubbing, racing, and all that sort of stuff. So I would be gutted as a team boss if Andy hadn't gone for the gap, because you'd have questioned and gone, why didn't you go for it? And then on the other side, I understand why Josh and the PBM guys weren't happy, because as a team boss, I'd be gutted if someone did that to my rider. So you have to sort of take the rough with the smooth with it. That's just how it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, do you think it had something to do with Andy's reputation preceding him somewhat? So it was...
Oh, 100%.
You're going to have to be punished for this, lad. Whereas maybe if it was someone's first ever real offence in racing in Superbikes, there may have been a little bit more leniency, shall we say.
Yeah, and I think the same with the one with Vickers at Snetterton. For me, Andy didn't do anything wrong there. He went round the outside of him. For me personally, Vickers would have seen him, would have heard him. Andy had been there long enough to know that he was there. And I think he got enough past the bike for Vickers to yield. And you ended up with two young, very talented riders, not one of them wanting to give a gap. So, unfortunately, the inevitable was going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I thought it was very harsh what happened to him at Snetterton, because I thought he'd gone past and moved across to the right. He wasn't to know that Vickers was still there. Maybe he should have erred on the side of caution, but sometimes you do that, you don't become a winner, do you? It's not what like you say, it's not what your team boss is looking for. So into the saucepan that we're cooking the sauce in, I'm just trying to get that up to bit temperature. We've got shallots, one shallot chopped up finely, garlic, a cup of red wine, and I've just put in a big spoonful of red currant jelly. Give it a bit of sweetness. I shall put some salt and pepper in it shortly, and a little bit of stock. We'll reduce that down by about half, add a little bit of flour to thicken it. And then we'll be getting ready for plating up. So we nearly got you to the end of this show and probably bored you to death. So I've with next year and the new bike, that's a love or hate, isn't it? That's a Marmite bike, the Kawasaki that you're going to be running with the new front end.
Yeah, again, I don't think there'll be a problem looking at the spec of the new ZX10. It's where it needs to be. So I think we've got a bigger job with the 636 than we have with the 10. To be fair, make no bones about it. We're going out to win that 600 championship.
So go on then. We'll jump into the 600s because that's something you can kind of talk about while I'm just watching it. What do you make of the new rule to bring the Triumph 765 in and the Ducati V Twin?
Brilliant.
It's obviously quite. Yeah, I agree that it's brilliant. But can you talk me through the kind of the rule spec that it's going to be? Because the 765 is going to be standard engines, whereas the Super Sport 600 could still run that mountain tune.
Yeah, so at the minute, obviously, we can do head work, we can do porting, we can do cams and stuff like that. The 765 is going to be an absolutely stock motorcycle, completely standard from the factory, exactly the same as what they get, sort of thing at Moto 2. So it will produce about 135-ish horsepower, I would imagine. The biggest thing that it's going to have an advantage on it is torque. So it's going to be really good out the turn. But, you know, it might have a bit less horsepower. I mean, I think, was it 132 a Moto 2 is? So if they're 132 horsepower and they've got 58 pound of torque, that's going to be a good bike in Supersport. We know the chassis will work because it's the same chassis that they probably ran a few years back. So it'll be a good bike. Obviously, the team hasn't been announced yet that's doing it, but I can tell you now, we know who it is. They're a very, very good team. They're very well respected.
Are they a previous 600 Supersport team, or is it?
Yes. So they'll have a good job.
I'm finding that out when we get off here. I'll be ringing you and finding out who that is.
And then
sure.
obviously we don't know what riders they've got. You know, I mean, obviously it's Triumph. You would expect it to be. Everybody's talking about it. Should be somebody like Luke Stapleford and what have you. But I don't see Luke coming back, to be honest. But you know, look,
he's had a family bereavement, has he? Did his dad not pass away not so long ago?
Yeah, his dad passed a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a shame. He was a great guy. He was a great guy.
Mate, we was probably sadly missed in the paddock. Pete was a wonderful guy. Helped us out immensely when we had Jack. When we were having problems with the MV back in the 17 with Kennedy, we lent Kennedy out to go and help Luke and Pete in World Supersport on the Triumph. Funnily enough,
of course.
And
yes, I just remember that.
He. You know, Jack came back from that, and Luke helped us out massively, helping us develop a new engine and time at the dyno and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, I've got a massive amount of respect for the guy, and you know, Luke's an unbelievably skilled rider. We tried to sign him last year for Superbike, but it just wasn't the right time. But you know,
because he took a complete year out this year, didn't he? Even before his father sadly passed away, he hasn't been seen this year.
Yeah, no, he took a year out, and I think it was because he wanted the right bike. He didn't feel that he got the right job where he was last in 19. It wasn't for him, so he wanted something new, and he wanted the right bike. And I don't think it really mattered what it was, Supersport or Superstock or Superbike. He just wanted something he could compete on. You know, that was the biggest thing. But you know, for me, you know, the Triumph coming into the paddock's brilliant. Obviously, we know that Krummenack has been testing a Barney V2. It's been all over the Italian media over the past few weeks, and again, that bike's going to be fairly stock. I would imagine they're going to have to run Motec, you know, and there'll be a balance of performance. You know, if you look at the lap time of a front running, you know, Josh Day is no slouch. If you take the lap time of Josh Day in the Ducati Cup and you take the front boys in British Supersport, there is a little bit of disparity. The Supersport boys are quicker, but I don't think there's going to be much to make the balance of performance right. And it opens Superbike, you know, Supersport to, you know, a number of teams, you know, so teams that have been in the Ducati Championship for a while, you know, are suddenly going to be able to do something a little bit different and get in front of a lot more spectators. So,
are they going to be allowed to run the bike in the Tri-Options Cup and in Supersport, or as Stuart kind of stated, it's one?
No, they're going to be two different specs, aren't they? So the spec of the spec of the Supersport bike will be different to the one of. They've got to run Motec then the electronics, yeah. Yeah, because you're going to have to control the performance somehow, because you can't have an endless, you know, you can't put 1,000cc almost V2 into Supersport and expect it to compete against a 675. You know, that is going to be a bit of an ask of anybody, but you know, if they get the balance of performance, which I'm sure they will. It's just going to be like the Supersport 300. So you've got the R3, which is allowed a lot of tuning, and they're a proper trick little thing. And then you've got the 400 Kawasaki, which has to run a blanking plate to restrict the performance of it. So I think you know that they've done balance of performance in that, and the KTM, the R3, and the Kawasaki can win, there's no reason why they can't do that with Supersport. So, it looks like the Ducati can only do a few rounds next year, I think was the rule. The Triumph is doing the whole season. I'm not sure if the Triumph is going to score points, or I guess it's going to be a normal championship for it. But it does then beg another question. What happens to the GP2 championship? Right,
yes. That was going to be the question I was going to get to. Have you heard anything on that next year? I'm guessing it's staying. But
yeah.
Is it as its days numbered? Are they going to change the format? Are they going to?
I've got no idea. I've got no idea. I mean, the whole point of GP2 is to fill the grid from Supersport. And it's put a few in. It's put a few front running riders in. But the way I personally look at it, and it is only a personal view, that the guys that are running GP2, so like Mark at Go Developments and even Tony Scott, and a few others, they would have run a real good Supersport bike with a good rider on it. Mark at Go Developments, let's be fair, ran Brad Ray and Jamie Perrin and Tom Ward, on his Supersport bikes in the past. So, I think we've given people an opportunity to do something new, but I don't think it's really given people an opportunity to do something maybe new in that class. I think you're not seeing. I think there's only really one team that has stepped up from Moto 3 that makes a big impact into championship. The guys that Kyle won the championship with. But look, I don't know. GP2 for me isn't a class that really fits in with Supersport because. They're a little bit quicker in places. We're a bit in places. They're on slicks. We're on treads. I think the step towards the Ducati and the Triumph, and with them, obviously Yamaha have said that there's no R6s being done for the road after this year.
I'm just going to have to interrupt you there dead quickly, Dave. I'm just going to get this blitz going again. 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, sorry, go on, Chief.
Yeah, so Yamaha said about the R6, you sort of got to guess that there's a new bike coming for them, and it might not be a sports bike per se. It might be a bit like what Triumph have done with the 765. So we might see another bike from Yamaha. So if you do, you've got a Yamaha, you've got the Kawasaki 636, which would still be able to tune the everything effort. You'll have R6 is still there for the next 4 or 5 years for sure. You might end up with this new Yamaha. Then who knows? Suzuki might even bring something out of the death. The new Honda's available, but very, very expensive to bring into the UK. And ultimately, MV do an 800. They haven't gone to homologate it, but that bike in the 800 trim standard is about 144 horsepower. So very, very similar to a Supersport bike. And has got a fantastic chassis. So a standard one of them with a full system air tubes and air filter and bits on it would be a really competitive bike in Supersport and cheap to run.
So with all that said, can you see in the up and coming years, because I know Aprilia are already doing it and Ducati have already done it, because Ducati have had to make a homologation special, if you like, with the V4R, so they can come racing in Superbikes. Can you see the Superbikes being up to 1100 cc? Any time soon? If we're going to, think with allowing like 800s in and 765s and the 9 whatever Ducati, you're not thinking
there is. I think what you have to remember is Supersport's going to become slightly more capacity, but more standard.
Yep.
And I think you'll find that Superstock, I would love to say and see that Superstock becomes more Superstock. So we take off all these trick ECUs and the all the trick stuff that's on the Superstock bikes now, and we make them almost road bike.
Right. Yeah.
Because let's be fair, mate, the Showa suspension and the BMW suspension, everything that's available in those standard road bikes now is better than what you were racing on in 2010.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's strange for me. I rode an Aprilia RSV4 on the road the this year. Yeah, beginning
this
of this
year,
year.
early this year, yeah.
Yeah, just to see how my hip was, and I had to turn all the electronics off. I couldn't ride the bike with the electronics on, just because I've been that used, like you say. It's been 2010 since I've ever used traction control. 2009, I think the MV Augusta Road had a tiny little bit in the ECU, and then 2007 and 8, they were, to be fair, they were all singing, all dancing, the electronics. But I had to turn it off.
You're on Morelli.
Yeah, mostly because I couldn't pull any wheelers in front of anyone. So that was like, well, that's got to
go. but the thing is now, that old Morelli that you ran in 2007 isn't even as good as the Morelli that's on that Aprilia standard anymore.
No, exactly that.
You have to remember that Aprilia and like the Ducati and the Yamaha and the BMW, they're all on your controls. So they actually allow you to tell the bike how far you want it to slide before it starts cutting the power out. So the electronics now on a standard road bike are brilliant. You know, way past what we've had on race bikes in the past few years in BSB. So I would like to see stock going a lot more stock. I think you'll find Supersport will go stock engines, but still allow us to do the suspension and the subframes and the big radiators and stuff like that. You know, and Superbike will still say where it is. You know, Superbike is the pinnacle of the championship, and that's what it needs to stay at.
Yeah, I totally agree. Right, we're going to get close to serving this up, and then we're going to have to get some taste testers, and I'm afraid that's perfect. I just needed that. And then you can, what is it called? Rate my plate, Dave. You can rate my plate, mate. If everybody's been enjoying this so far, if you can show the producers and such that you've had a good time by giving them a thumbs up, because once this is cooked, and believe it or not, we've not burnt anything, and it hasn't been a big disaster, has it? Is everyone happy? What I will do, while I'm just getting set to plate this up, is I must say thank you to the person who's allowed us to use her cafe. What was her name again? No, her name. Joe at the cafe in Tomberton. Total Claim Solutions for coming on board and helping out. We've got a chat to have after Rob. Get your wallet out, you tight get. The Wagon and Horses in Walsden, which is my local. And I was helped with this recipe off their chef up there, a guy called Matt. So hopefully I might get a pint for that. Thank you to Star Events Online for having me on. And what else have I got to do? Oh, I'll thank Dave afterwards. And I've already explained how this helps with the COVID thing, but I might get into that in a little bit. So, right, let's go on to plating this up and see how we get on. Now, what I will do is I'll say, so in here, we have the garden mint, the peas. We have garden mint, garlic, some double cream, and a tiny little bit of stock. And that's your minted pea puree. What we'll do, I'm guessing after this, if anybody wants the recipe, or we'll just do it anyway, I'll put it all up in line so you can follow on. Then we've got the red wine sauce. That's done. That was the shallots, the garlic, a bit of butter, a cup full of red wine, a cup full of stock, reduced right down. Did they have something and a bit of seasoning? So that's ready to go. So now we've got to cut into this lamb. And I'm going to cut away from you. I'm going to cut away from you because I want to see if we've managed to keep. Well, that's me. Giving myself a little pat on the back there, I think. I'm not just sure about
you like Vernon Kay on Who Wants to Be a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, didn't you, doing this?
That lamb, we'll just slice it up into the what's it? I can't remember what it's called. Like this, I suppose it's a bit of a chop. Good job that I like my lamb rare. This, unfortunately, this knife's not helping me out very much here.
You need a chopping board, not a plate, really.
It's not what Gordon Ramsay did when he cooked this. It's what I'll tell you why, because it's not been French trimmed just correctly. So, right, we've got the 3 chops there. Can you all see how beautiful that lamb looks? Yep. So that's going to go onto the plate. The other 3 chops will be getting gammeted by the people in here. They were supposed to dress this really rather nicely. So what do we put on first? So we get our, as you can see, now the sauce has gone kind of quite thick. So we put some of that across the middle of the plate. Trying to be all a bit chefy in, but as you'll see, I'll be failing at that. Wipe that off there. Put that lamb onto there like that.
There you go, Michael, from Ian. That lamb is spot on.
I should actually. I know it's rather rude to eat in front of people, but I'm going to try a bit of this and see what it's like. I'm not going to lie. Oh, mate. Yeah. That's some good lamb. That is some really good lamb. And then we'll go on to placing the potatoes onto our plate. But not with that spoon that's just gone on the floor. So let me to get another one off shot. I promise you we'll change it. Presentation is normally where I fail and falter. So if it looks a bit rustic, it's because I want it to look a bit rustic. Have you actually enjoyed this, Dave? Have you enjoyed your time on here today with us? Chatting.
Oh, it's been lovely, Michael. Talking to you for a good couple of hours breaks me day up.
Yeah. Well, it can't get any worse now, can it? Let's face it.
Well, I don't know. I'm going home.
Oh, don't say that. The bloody Doris is about. She'll bollock me. Has Sarah listened in at all?
I've got no idea, mate. She tried to phone me earlier. I blanked her. Right, just need to wash this spoon. We'll get a bit of this mint pea puree on. I can just wash this. To be fair, though, Chief, it actually looks pretty decent.
It's not a bad effort, is it? I'm sure I could have kept everything a little bit cleaner, but then we go in with a bit.
I'll tell you what, I'm actually after a chef for hospitality next year. You know,
maybe that's what I could do. Maybe
that's what you should be doing.
Yeah,
we've found something in the BSB paddock that actually you can crack on with.
Right, there we go. That's about as good as it's going to get. I don't know which where I need to bring that to. But there we have rack of lamb with a herb crust, pimento potatoes with rosemary, garlic, and a bit of butter, and a minted pea puree. So if you're all liking that, let's see thumbs up in the gallery. Obviously,
that's pretty good, that, dude.
So I know that my mother's watching this. Mother, what do you think of this? Because I've got to say, it tastes far better than it looks. What do you think?
It looks gorgeous, it does, but stop eating my tea.
What do you mean stop eating your tea? I'm guessing that you want me to fetch this piece home for you, then, do you? Yeah. Well, we've garnished all the rest, so yeah, I'll save that and I'll bring you that for your tea.
That's okay. Put the money in it looked good. It looked good.
Put the money in a brown envelope and just leave it on the side. Yeah, put the money in an envelope and leave it on the side. The only thing left to do with it is sign up from all you guys. I think I've said everything that I needed to say. I hope that after we've done this pilot, this will be going live every other Monday from here on in, if the guys at Star Events Online liked it, where we'll be interviewing riders, other people from all aspects of motorsport is the intention, and I'll be cooking up some other amazing delight for you. So on that, I'd like to thank our guest, Dave Tyson, for coming on and being amazing and keeping the show flowing. And that's about me. I'll have to say goodbye for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.